somebody wrote an article on this the other day, and I thought it was brilliant because I didn't think about it in these terms, but it actually seems like the obvious answer after the fact. But if you could say, here's one thing that absolutely would have changed the outcome of the election, I think if they got that original Build Back Better bill passed, I think Kamala would have won. Because in that bill, you had paid family leave, you had childcare, universal pre-K, free community college, expanding Medicare, higher minimum wage, lowering all prescription drug prices, not just a few like they ended up doing, expanded child tax credit. And I think that would have been enough of delivering for people materially where Democrats would have won. And so if you really want to pin this election on any one or two people, I think you can squarely lay it at the feet of Kyrsten Sinema, and you can squarely lay it at the feet of Joe Manchin.
Those two should have been waking up every morning with horse heads in their damn beds. The Joe Biden strategy of like kowtowing to them and going and negotiating, then negotiate with the Republicans, then so on and so forth, and it did nothing, and it never does anything. It never ever works. And if they had gotten it passed as well, and this speaks to your earlier point about their policy, Democrats never really tout their policy. I think that like, with Republicans, if they have a point they want to make about Kamala Harris being woke or letting in illegal immigrants or whatever, they'll make it 50 million times and they'll describe it in the most lurid, borderline pornographic terms possible. I mean, they will really drive it home. Whereas the Democrats' criticisms of, let's say, healthcare, Donald Trump trying to repeal the ACA for like nearly a decade now and never having a single plan to replace it, all they went with was he has concepts of a plan. Is that bad? Sure. But to the average American, that doesn't mean anything. The average voter is, respectfully, not that informed on policy or what that even means. The average voter doesn't even know what the ACA is. You have to like day by day, every time you're in front of a microphone, like he wants you to die. If you scraped your toe on the sidewalk when you were 6 years old, he wants you to not be able to get insurance and die, you know. And they don't do that because it's like, it's mean, or it's uncivil.
And they suck at politics. They just suck at basic politics. So here's the fact that a lot of people don't remember. It's almost like a Mandela effect thing where everybody memory hold this, but I remember it. In 2017, Trump tried to do a healthcare bill. It was called like the American Health Care Act or something like that, and it was called Trump Care for short by the media. And Kaiser Family Foundation, which does healthcare stuff, they did a poll on this. They found that Trump's bill had 8% support in the country. And this is what he tried to ram through. And the reason it was so unpopular is because it did get rid of protections for pre-existing conditions. It made it so that the states had to opt into it or opt out of it. And what would have happened is the same thing that happened with Medicaid expansion under Obama. All the red states would have been like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to opt into it. So there goes your protections for pre-existing conditions. Nobody knows this. Nobody talked about this. Nobody brought this up. Here's another story that just came out yesterday. There's a MAGA judge in Texas, federal judge in Texas, appointed by Trump in 2019. He just, like that, decided, I'm going to throw out this new rule that Biden signed, which increases overtime pay for 4 million Americans. The line used to be $35,000 and under. If you do that, if you make that much, you're guaranteed overtime by law. It's mandatory. Biden tried to raise it to $58,000.
Like doubling it nearly. It's huge.
Nearly doubling it. And boom, just like that, a MAGA judge threw it out. Now, let me ask you, have you heard anybody bring this up? Any Democratic politician, anybody in traditional media, anybody in new media? Has anybody brought this information? And no, the answer is no. There were some articles on it. I saw it. I talked about it on my show. It doesn't get fucking brought up. And this is part of what drives me crazy and what feels like I live in the Twilight Zone. Is like, I thought all of us were living in this same shared reality. And if I see this thing, which is really interesting and really terrible and paints a bad picture of Trump and the Republicans, that we'll all talk about it like it matters, because it does matter, because now you just screwed 4 million people out of maybe being able to pay the fucking light bill, right? But no, it doesn't get brought up. And that's why I'm in my, I don't know what you can call this era, black pill era.
No, and you know what, honestly, and I agree with you, one of the things that really gets me as well is that it's difficult to tell whether or not it's an unsolvable gap in the information environment or just the Democrats being terrible at messaging. Maybe if the Democrats were really good at politics, or at least as good at it as Republicans, we wouldn't have this issue and people would see enough pushback on these issues that they would make better choices. Or maybe if the Democrats were more effective at messaging, it still wouldn't make a difference, because a lot of people just get their information from like talk radio or Joe Rogan or whatever, and they wouldn't get that info at all. I don't know. I want to say the Democrats should should be better at messaging, but I don't know whether that would be enough to cross the gap currently. Maybe it would be, and maybe this wouldn't be so much of an issue. It's that ambiguity that frustrates me, because I feel like you've got two avenues, one of which is like, okay, do I sensibly try to advocate for the Democrats to not suck at politics as much? And the other avenue is like, we literally live in two different realities. The average Republican doesn't even know what the ACA is and wouldn't know if it was taken away from them. And if it was taken away from them, they would blame Biden. They would hear from talk radio that if your health insurance got taken away under Trump's second term, it was because of some Biden bill that passed in like 2023, and they would accept it, and then they would die from, I don't know, appendicitis or something.
Yeah, but see, that's why it's incumbent on us to drag people back to reality and take away these two realities, force it to become one reality. And something that I've come to realize lately is that it really is true. People like you and I need to get out there, and we need to confront these idiots face to face. Like, we need to debate them. We need to get our points across. I was just on Piers Morgan earlier today trying to do exactly that. It's like
fun convo.
Somebody's got to spread the message, right? And because nobody's going to spread nobody in mainstream media is going to spread the message. Most of independent media is totally fucking shameless and pathetic and Trump ball coddlers now. So it's on people like us to do it. And it's people like us who actually know. For example, Trump made $160 million from foreign countries while he was president. Jared Kushner took $2 billion from Saudi Arabia. Oh, would you look at that? Trump at the UFC event was sitting next to a fucking top Saudi government official.
Right? The head of their sovereign fund. Yeah, $1 trillion locked up in that.
Right, so they can cry about Hunter Biden's fucking cock and balls all day and act like this is the biggest scandal in the world with his laptop or whatever, and however many hundreds of thousands he got from, Burisma or whatever the fuck. But there is no counter narrative where people are like, you're talking about the small beans of a couple $100,000 from fucking Burisma when Jared Kushner took $2 billion from Saudi Arabia. We don't even know how much money Trump himself took from Saudi Arabia. He hosts these live golf events, the Saudi Professional Golf League. He hosts those events at his courses. They've probably already paid him over $100 million for that.
The hotel he had.
What do you think they're going to get? Yeah, the hotel
in D.C. where Eddie, if you wanted to talk policy with him, you just go over there and like kiss his toes. My hope for messaging, I guess, in the future, because I mean, I agree, we got to try the best that we can. My hope for messaging in the future is that, like, I remember that under the first Trump term, and I only started making content like in the middle of it because you've been doing this for a lot longer than I have, but I remember during Trump's administration, Trump supporters were a lot more defensive about him because they were living in a world where Trump was in charge and everything still sucked. And as soon as Biden got in power, they all got impossible to talk to. Because everything that went wrong was Biden's fault, and everything Trump, like all of Trump's proposed solutions were magically effective, if only they could be implemented. And I'm hoping that now that Trump is entering a second term, there are going to be a lot more Trump supporters who are kind of like awkwardly shuffling around. Wait, why is everything still so expensive? Why am I still making not enough money to pay for rent? Why are none of these problems getting fixed? And that state of like defensiveness or self-awareness might make them a little easier to reach. If not for that, though, then it's just a matter of waiting it out. There's no way that a government this incompetent and kleptocratic can maintain its hold indefinitely. At some point, there will be a break.
Yeah, and the thing is, these people are always impossible to talk to, but it's the weight of the culture that moves the whole country politically. And what I mean by that is, you saw the weight of the culture get Trump back in the White House with all the Joe Rogans and the Andrew Schultz and the Tim Dillons and the Theo Vaughns and all these people who are either outright political or semi-political, and they ended up humanizing Trump and getting him back in the White House.
They all every not political, like independent thinker ended up siding Trump in this fucking election.
Now, what would happen if the roles were reversed and it was Kamala Harris going on popular podcasts and they were trying to get her across the finish line, and you had people who were somewhat political but not fully political who were kind of helping her out? And if the roles were reversed, you know what the right would have done? They would have screamed fucking bloody murder and never shut up about how fucking fraudulent not only Kamala Harris is, but how fraudulent all of the podcasters are and how little they know about politics and how they're all vibes-based and they're fucking idiots. And they would have screamed so hard and worked the refs so hard that they would have probably battled that shit out to a tie where it wouldn't have even necessarily helped Kamala Harris to do that, right? And that's where we're lacking. That's the only thing you and I can even control, really, is how much we can try to shift the narrative, because it really is the case that the right 100% sets the full conversation for the nation these days. And I cannot live in that reality anymore. I can't fucking bear it. All the shit I know that Trump has done policy-wise and stuff he wants to do and things that everybody should be aware of, people don't know it, bro. They don't know it. And it's like, we got to fucking get it through their heads.
The year is 2027. The recent, like, the recent collapse of like a funding bill has been blamed on like trans people in bathrooms or something. I don't know. The infinite cycle. This has been happening for far longer than the Trump administrations, of course. I mean, the very like origins of union mobilization in the United States were rooted in efforts by the owners of those factories and looms and businesses trying to divide like black and white workers, or saying that immigrants from Mexico were coming in to take their jobs, which is why you shouldn't unionize with them because they're like part of the enemy and they're going to depreciate everyone's wages. There's always been an effort to like shuttle off the real conversations and get people to focus on things like, be fearful of this group, of that group. Maybe like as things continue to get worse, which they will, not just here, but all across the board, right? Like this is not the only country where the incumbent liberal is losing ground rapidly to a fascist opponent. France, Britain, Germany, Canada soon, all in the exact same boat. And we're going to enter like a dark age, and where we come out on the other side, I think, will just be a matter of whose principled message wins out the most. And it's up to us, I guess, to make sure that it's not the Democrat consultancy class smugly telling people, see, we told you. You did actually want like a $25,000 first-time home buyer tax credit. That was the solution the entire time, and you were wrong to vote against Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Yeah.